Welcome to another week of our daily Bible devotions. This week we're going to explore the truth of God's existence. We have examined the idea of worldview and why it is important for us to contrast worldview and for us to be open minded. And we have established last week that truth is exclusive. Since we have established that, let's explore now the truth of God's existence. And it is something that is very important for many people because this has been, let's just say that across history, the topic of God's existence is a very trending topic. Philosophers have talked about it, religious people have talked about it, so many people in history have talked about it. And so this week we're going to explore this and we're going to start with this. We're going to start with the question of God's existence. The question of God's existence. Let's approach this academically. Let's approach this in a way that we approach every research. And if you're studying research already, you know that this is the first part. You have to establish the questions. We have established questions in the past weeks, as in the fundamental questions of reality, the fundamental questions of life. There's the question of origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. And according to some people in history, God is actually the answer to all this, especially in the Christian theistic worldview. Now, narrowing it down, let's just focus first on God's existence. God's existence. Let's begin our research, so to speak, in this topic, the question of God's existence. So, there you go. That's the first part. We have to establish the question. And what is the question? Our question now, if we're going to dive and explore into this topic, is this: does God exist? And at first, if you rethink that we're doing this in the context of Christian education, you might ask, why are we asking this question? Does God exist? Is it even okay? Is it even all right for Christians to ask this question? If we are in a Christian institution, why else would we ask? This is an assumption that we have been taking already, and therefore we should just talk about God's existence. But why are we questioning God's existence? Is not bad? And yes, that's not bad. And the thing is, in many cultures, in many religion, in many churches, they forbid people to ask this question, as if you ask this question, this is the ultimate sin. But no, this is not a sin. You are only asking, confirming if the things that you believe to be true, if they're really true. You are just checking your own worldview. When you test other worldviews, that does not mean that your own worldview is exempted. If this institution assumes and goes on with the worldview that God exists, then let's test our own worldview. Does God really exist? If we question this, if we ask this question, we're actually establishing and asserting that faith is and should be reasonable. In my history classes, I show crash course videos, and there's this crash course on philosophy. And during the definition of philosophy, during the first first lesson, they somehow established that philosophy is different from theology, and by consequence, they said that faith is different because faith has no reason, so to speak. I think that's a caricature of faith. I think that's a straw man fallacy. Remember our lessons about logical fallacies. Faith as something that has no reason, there's absence of reason in faith. That's a mischaracteristic of faith. We are misrepresenting faith. That is a straw man fallacy. Faith is and should be reasonable. And because faith is reasonable, we are entertaining the question of God's existence. We are asking, does God exist? And as we go on our research about this topic, we are also establishing and affirming that questions must be asked. All across history, all across civilizations, questions were entertained and questions were answered. Because If you think about it, if people in the past did not ask questions, there will be no discoveries. And if there were no discoveries, there will be no validity in everything that these civilizations believe, and there will be no progress. No discovery, no progress. One of the aspects of civilization is technological advancement. There must be an advancement in a civilization. There's only advancement when you entertain question. Can things be improved? Can we do it better? Can we do it faster? Can it be more convenient? Those questions lead to technological discoveries. If we will stop asking questions, there will be no discovery. And there will be no validity in the things that you hold to be true, and there will be no chance of having progress in the future. We need to progress. And for us to progress, we need to examine and entertain the question, does God exist? So for the rest of the week, that's what we're going to do. We're going to just explore this question. Your homework tonight, keep thinking about this question. Does God exist? Does God exist? And we will continue further this week.